This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. We begin today's show with Nicole Welborn, Kansas Farm Service Agency Agricultural Program Specialist, to discuss general CRP. Also joining is USDA's Rod Bain, Deborah Yocum, Tom Vilsack, and Kamala Neal with information about a program to improve rural energy. Ashlee Westerhold, the director of the Office of Farm and Ranch Transition at K-State, continues the show with an opportunity for North Central Kansas producers to learn more about farm and ranch transitioning. Concluding today's show is the Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts with a conversation about when to castrate calves. Joining is Brad White, Brian Lubbers, and Bob Larson. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. You're tuned into Agriculture Today, and on this Wednesday, we start our show with some information from the Kansas Farm Service Agency. And in to share information today, we have Nicole Welborn, Kansas FSA Agriculture Program Specialist. Nicole, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nicole, today you wanted to really talk about the general CRP, kind of things have been resolved and are working forward for producers.
Absolutely, yes. The FSA National Office just recently announced that they are providing an opportunity for producers to submit general CRP offers that were previously determined ineligible. They're allowed the opportunity to come into their local FSA office and resubmit those offers for reevaluation. And this opportunity, of course, is being provided based on the observed results from the transition to the new erosion tools that were used during General CRP Sign-Up 60. And this is to help further assist in transitioning to the new erosion tools. So the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs at the FSA National Office is granting state executive directors across the nation the authority to submit inquiries and any unsubmitted offers meeting certain criteria for reevaluation.
What was that tool that kind of made an issue with the system?
We were previously using an older version of the erodibility index tools. It's Roosley and WEC where we were previously using, and we moved to the new system that was updated. It uses a more live version of the erodibility tools that aligns us with what other agencies are using. But that did cause some discrepancy in what we were seeing before and what we're seeing now. So in response to that, National Office has agreed to allow this reevaluation opportunity for these general sign-up offers so that we can try to get some of that land that is definitely erodible, especially out in western and southwestern Kansas and northwestern Kansas, and get that reevaluated and try to figure out why it was that it wasn't meeting the erodibility and get some of that land in.
And if producers had submitted some acreage for the general CRP, but maybe didn't submit all of it because it didn't all qualify, can they go back and resubmit those other acres that do now qualify?
Absolutely. So this opportunity is available for producers who would have visited the FSA office during the general CRP sign-up period and either were told that their entire offer did not meet the erodibility qualifications or requirements, or if they intended to enroll, for example, like 100 acres, it was not, the entire 100 acres was not eligible, so they pared the offer down to, say, 50 acres. They can come back in and now offer that entire 100 acres for that reevaluation.
And just because maybe acres weren't qualified now, they may still not be qualified. This isn't just a free-for-all now.
It's not a guarantee. It's just a submission for reevaluation, so we can't make any guarantees. And of course, since the sign-up results have been announced and we know what the cutoff environmental benefits index is, which is what qualifies you under that competitive sign-up, any offer that is resubmitted must meet that qualifying number. So when you visit your county office and they process that offer for reevaluation, it has to meet that EBI cutoff score in order to be reevaluated. So there is that. And even if it's submitted for reevaluation, there's no guarantees. We don't have the details for exactly what that reevaluation entails, but it is definitely a progress, like we talked about, towards getting those offers, relooking at those offers.
And for producers who say, oh, that's me, I should go into my FSA office, when do they need to do this by?
Sure. I would encourage everyone, given the workload of county offices, I would encourage them to contact their county office as soon as possible. All of these offers have to be submitted to the state office by July 26th. So I want to give county offices who are very busy right now, I want to give them plenty of time and opportunity to get these offers processed through their system so that they could submit it up to the state office, so then we can submit it on to the national office. So there's a process, as with most things to do with FSA. So again, I would definitely encourage you to get in there as soon as possible. Contact your local FSA office at least so that they can, let you know what would work best for them under their workload, how it is going for them right now. But all of those offers have to be into the state office by July 26th.
Speaking of general CRP here, it ended on April 7th, which was the first sign-up deadline, and there are quite a few acres enrolled in that.
Yes, so nationally they accepted over 1 million acres, and here in Kansas we accepted just over 89,000 acres. So we had a good sign-up this year.
So maybe seeing a little bit of increase in that number with the extended enrollment?
Absolutely. We could see definitely an uptick in those numbers based on this reevaluation opportunity.
And we're talking about general CRP. However, we're going to move into talking about continuous CRP, which is something that producers can more regularly sign up for around the year.
Yes. In addition to, of course, this reevaluation period and this opportunity, of course, the ongoing continuous CRP sign-up is ongoing through the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. And that is the continuous sign-up involves acreage that's for environmentally sensitive land, such as waterways, wetland restoration, habitat buffers, things of that nature. So that's ongoing and can be conducted at any time through September 29th of this year.
And so we have general CRP, we have continuous CRP, we also have grassland CRP. What are you anticipating to see for sign up from that?
So with grassland CRP, we had another record-breaking sign-up nationally. There were over 4.6 million acres offered nationally, which is a huge number. And then Kansas offered just over 346,000 acres alone. So huge sign-up. Shout out to the county offices and all the producers who participated in that. That was a great opportunity.
Nicole, a few times you've mentioned that your county offices are likely very, very busy right now because there's a lot of upcoming deadlines.
They're very busy. A lot of signups are going on together. And of course, we've got the big, huge crop certification deadline, which is July 17th. It's generally July 15th, but with it falling on a weekend, it's pushed back to July 17th. So big deadline for all county offices out there and for producers. Want to make sure that you contact your local FSA office as soon as possible to get in there to certify your acres by that deadline of July 17th.
A lot of different programs, as always, from the Farm Service Agency. If people would like to find out more about them, where can they do that?
Sure. You can always visit fsa.usda.gov or Farmers.gov.
Nicole, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today and kind of share some more information about some Farm Service Agency programs.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That was Kansas Farm Service Agency Agricultural Program Specialist Nicole Welborn. The resource that she mentioned in today's show you can find on agtoday.net. Before we cut to a break, we're going to be joined by USDA's Rod Bain, Deborah Yocum, Tom Vilsack, and Kamala Neal as they discuss a USDA funding program designed to improve rural energy distribution and efficiency for ag producers and rural small businesses.
Perhaps you have heard of USDA's program creating both renewable energy systems and energy improvements, the Rural Energy for America program, in acronym form, REAP.
This program has wide application, and the scale of renewable energy projects that we can fund range from small, behind-the-meter renewable energy systems to large commercial-scale energy generation projects. For energy efficiency projects, we can fund a wide variety of projects from lighting, HVAC, automated controls, insulation, essentially any replacement or improvements to a system that is saving energy on an annual basis.
Deborah Yocum is a business loan and grant analyst with USDA Rural Development's Nebraska State Office. She notes there are two categories of eligibility: ag producers, and rural small businesses.
Ag producers are actively engaged in ag production, and 50% of the income comes from the ag production. For rural small businesses, we look at private for-profit entities, electric utilities, cooperatives, and tribal corporations.
The combination of grants, loans, and in the case of ag producers, guaranteed loans only to install energy-efficient equipment and systems for their commodity production and processing. What might a REAP project look like on the local level? Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack offered 2 examples of previously funded projects during a recent media call.
There's a project in Florence, Minnesota to install a 15-kilowatt wind turbine. This project is going to save that business almost $5,500, almost $5,600 a year, and it helps to replace 48,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is enough electricity to power 4 homes. Now, it's a small project. On the other hand, there was a project in Georgia to install a 950 kilowatt solar array. This project's going to save that company almost $125,000 a year in savings and replaces roughly 1,200 megawatt hours of power per year, which would be enough power to power 118 homes.
Rural Development, Rural Business Cooperative Service Administrator Kamala Neal also offers a ground-level example of the Rural Energy for America program. An Iowa brewery 2 years ago awarded REAP funding
to purchase and install a 38-kilowatt solar array in their facilities.
Additional details about the Rural Energy for America program can be found online at www.rd.usda.gov. Click on the Program and Services tab and scroll to the link for energy programs. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
That was USDA's Rod Bain, Deborah Yocum, Tom Vilsack, and Kamala Neal. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be back with more ahead. You're tuned back into Agriculture Today, and we continue our show now with some information about farm and ranch transition conferences that will be taking place soon. And to tell us about them, we have the director of the Office of Farm and Ranch Transition, which is housed in K-State's Agricultural Economics Department, Ashlee Westerhold. Ashlee, what are these conferences that the Office of Farm and Ranch Transition is helping put on?
This year, we are going to have a set of conferences for North Central Kansas. I teamed up with the extension agents of several surrounding counties in North Central Kansas, and they saw the need to have more conferences to really talk about the transition from the farm from one generation to the next. And so we are going to be having conferences in August, and we're very excited to host it in 4 different sites in North Central Kansas. Really, we're having these conferences because statistically, many people will be transitioning over the next 15 years. In Kansas, 2/3 of our farms, the primary operator is over 55. So 66% of Kansas farms are operated primarily by someone who is over 55 years old. If we think about maybe retirement age being 70, that means that 2/3 of our farms could be transitioning in the next 15 years. So transition should be a very topical thing to talk about, and we are excited to just keep building momentum of how to have these conversations, how to move forward in this process, and how do we just get the process started of talking about transitioning the farm. And so if we have 15 years, that's a really good time frame to start planning and plan well. We do not necessarily want people to wait till their last day to make these decisions. And so how can we start the transfer process early and not wait?
You do have some people coming in to help share their expert knowledge on other subjects, and your keynote speaker is one of them. And could you talk about who he is and what he's coming in to talk about?
Yeah, so we are very excited to have our keynote speaker this year for these North Central Kansas conferences be Dr. Ron Hansen. He is the Harlan Agribusiness Professor Emeritus at the University of Nebraska. He worked for the University of Nebraska until his retirement for 46 years as a professor in undergraduate studies mostly. But he is an ag economist who's been passionate about transitioning the farm from one generation to the next. He grew up on an Illinois family farm, and he has a very powerful story about why he's passionate about this topic. He's been working with farm families in transition for over 43 years, trying to help them through this process, trying to motivate them to make changes. And so he will be our keynote speaker. He will be giving 2 out of the topics of our day will be from Dr. Ron Hansen. And we are so excited to have him really talk about how to start this process, why it's important, and kind of mapping out the next years for you during this planning.
You mentioned that there's 4 different topics being talked about. And what are those 4 topics?
So we will really talk about succession planning. So that will be from Dr. Hansen, really dive into succession planning, the difference between succession and estate planning, and the importance of succession planning. Next, we will have a attorney talk about how to protect your assets. So even though we want to differentiate succession from estate planning, an attorney's role in this process is really integral in making sure that we're legally following through with what we're planning. Next, we will have an accountant talk about kind of the tax implications, managing that after-tax wealth. How do we make sure that when we go through this process, we do recognize those taxes or what we are putting ourselves out there for? And so really that accountant should be there to talk about those tax implications, but also how to manage taxes. And then lastly, we will talk about what are the resources in the state of Kansas that are available to the farmers and ranchers to make sure that even if you leave overwhelmed during that conference, you have a place to start and you have people inside the state that are working on succession planning and helping you through this process.
Something you said there that I want to point out is this is just a start. This isn't going to be all of it. It's just what information do you need to get started?
And we are really here to motivate you. The thing I like about these localized conferences is that we are actually having an attorney there who works in that area of the state. So you should be feeling comfortable to reach out to them so that we're not using an attorney that covers the whole state or an attorney that is more of an educator. We are using attorneys that are practicing professionals that could be able to help you in the future. Additionally, our accountant also has local base. So we are going to use a KFMA economist, which are tax preparers, and they help across the state, and there are localized units of KFMA. So we are trying to cater this conference for people that you see in your community, for people that you can start to have a relationship with. And so that, again, you're not seeing this attorney that you might never be able to get in contact with or an attorney that just covers a different part of the state. These people are actual professionals that you could use after this conference. And so we're excited about that.
And these conferences currently are just in north central Kansas. So what are those locations and days for people?
So we will be having conferences the week of August 21st, but our first conference will start on Tuesday, August 22nd in Clyde, Kansas. They will be at the Clyde Apartments Auditorium in Clyde. Our next day, Wednesday, August 23rd, we will be in Delphus at the Delphus Auditorium. And then on Thursday, August 24th, we will be in Beloit, Kansas at the Methodist Church in Beloit. And then on Friday, we will conclude our conferences in Phillipsburg at the Phillips County Fair building. Again, the local extension agents are the ones running these conferences and putting on these conferences with assistance of my office. But we are excited to really localize these conferences for people so that we can meet them where they are and not requiring a lot of travel for those in those areas.
And if those people aren't the 55 or really don't think maybe farm ranch transition is something they're thinking about right now, why would you recommend they still attend?
No matter what age you are probably in some sort of transition. You should be thinking about transition. Even if you are 35 years old, maybe you had your first kid, it is never too early to think about transitioning. Maybe you are not the owner-operator, but you're having a hard time communicating with the owner-operator. So no matter where you are in the stage of the farm, or maybe you're an off-farm heir, this could be an amazing conference for you to just learn more, know what kind of questions to ask your family members, know how to start that conversation at whatever point it is in your career or in your life cycle. But it's never too early to plan.
What is the registration process like for people who would like to attend?
Yeah, so we have an online registration, which will be in the show notes today for those who are interested. And the registration fee is $15 per person, or if you're a family of 4, we are doing $45 for 4. And so those kind of go up similar in that payment structure, but $15 per person, and then a family of 4 or more have a discount. We are encouraging all family members to attend if possible. We are trying to do it the first week of school so that parents don't have to bring their young children and maybe they're in school and they're able to attend. And so, again, we're excited. The fee should not hinder anyone from coming, and if it does, then please reach out and we should be able to find some scholarships or ways to get you there if that is a concern. But the registration fee is really just covering the cost of food that day. We were lucky enough to have some grants to help pay for this conference for that area, so we are excited.
And so the day starts at 8:30 and wraps up around 3:30. And if people are thinking this is really cool, but the location is not super feasible for them, how could they possibly get one in their area?
This year, instead of large conferences across the state from my office, I am encouraging the local extension agents to take ownership in the process of succession. And if you are interested in having one of these conferences in your area, I would reach out to your local extension office, ask them how to get one in your area, in your county. And I love working with extension agents. They know their counties better than I do, and they know the needs of their people. And so if you want one of these conferences, please reach out. Your first place should be your extension office, and they can get in touch with me, and we can go from there. So really open to all parts of the state, but recognizing that the local conferences are more convenient for a lot of people.
And if people do have farm and ranch transition questions, can they still reach out to your office?
Of course. And so you can reach me at Ashlee, ASHLEECW at KSU.edu, and I'm happy to answer questions or point you in the right direction.
Ashlee, I appreciate you coming in and informing producers of some important conferences that may be taking place near them.
Yeah, we are excited and we hope people attend. And again, we just hope that we are encouraging those to start this conversation of succession planning with their families. And just we hope that there are farms and ranches in Kansas for forever and that we keep these family farms continuing.
That was the director of the Office of Farm and Ranch Transition in K-State's Agricultural Economics Department, Ashlee Westerhold. The resources will be found in today's show notes, which can be found on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be back with more ahead on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Wednesday show with the BCI's Ask the Experts.
Hi, welcome to BCI Ask the Experts. I'm Brad White, joined today by two good experts, Dr. Brian Lubbers. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brad.
Dr. Bob Larson.
Hello, guys.
We're happy to have them. We're happy to have you as well. If you have questions for us on Ask the Experts, you can send them to bci@ksu.edu. And as we answer them, each of these guys will get up to 10 points for their answers. Today's question comes from a listener, and it's asking about the timing of castration. Should we castrate calves at birth, at branding or pasture turnout, say 60 to 80 days of age, or at weaning? Brian, I'm going to go to you first.
There's really two considerations when you talk about the timing of castration. And the first is the animal welfare aspect of it. So what is the best interest of the animal, right? From a pain perspective. And our thought really is the earlier the better. The earlier we can castrate that animal, the less the long-term pain effects are. And actually, there's some research out there that's been done here at Kansas State that shows there might actually be some performance by reducing pain we increase some performance as well. So you can think about that. The other big thing I think about is what is the labor and the convenience of handling. And so if you do it at birth, you handle every animal as an individual, whereas some of these other times we're processing animals in groups. We have more labor available. It might be faster, easier to do it then. So I think the compromise between those two things is branding pasture turnout is kind of the optimal time to castrate beef calves.
So your answer is branding. Bob?
All right, and I'm going to agree with him other than if I happen to be handling calves around birth. So there's a lot of differences between ranches. Sometimes if I'm handling all the calves, might as well just castrate them right at birth. But if we don't typically handle most of the calves, then I think you have to put it off really till a branding or pasture turnout time. I think we both agree that by and large, waiting to castrate at weaning is probably the least optimal option, with the exception of my purebred producers. Because even though we've done some research before and there's not a lot of information at weaning for a purebred producer deciding whether to keep that bull or not, there is some information. And so a purebred producer may elect to make that decision a little bit later from a selection standpoint. But if you're going to be castrating all the males anyway, the earlier the better.
And both of you guys had good points. Brian brought up the animal welfare aspect, so earlier is better. And so Brian's got 6, Bob, you've got 5. I want to dive further into, you kind of both mentioned performance. So castrating them early, it seems like maybe I'm going to have a decrease in performance by the time I get to weaning. And you kind of said that on the purebred side. Maybe that's what you were saying. Go ahead, Brian. What about the performance impacts?
So from the research I've seen, the performance aspects actually are better if you castrate early. So you have the pain, the insult, whatever causes that decrease in performance. So we get it over, and then there's enough time for them to recuperate that gain, and they'll actually be ahead. Whereas if you castrate, and we both agree, weaning is probably the least optimal time because you're adding a painful procedure onto other stressful events, weaning, vaccination, whatever other processing you're doing, and that you may actually see a bigger decrease in performance at that time.
Yeah, absolutely, a bigger decrease. But if I didn't castrate them at all?
Yeah, I would say, because those testicles are doing something valuable. They're providing testosterone and other steroid hormones that do promote growth. And so if you castrate at birth or at pasture turnout, at weaning age, they will be lighter than if you had left them intact. That's why we typically recommend going ahead and implanting those calves at the time we castrate them, so that then they are basically the same as if they had been left intact, and you get the added advantage of you don't get that negative effect of castrating at an older age. So if you implant the calf at the pasture turnout time, whether you castrated him then or castrated him at birth, I think you'll be ahead of where you would be if you waited to castrate him at weaning time.
Absolutely. And you don't have that. And I think Brian's absolutely right. Talking about the big performance decrease that takes a lot longer to recover from in those calves at weaning. But you bring up a good point is I need to replace those hormones with something as they go forward. So hopefully this answers your question. And Brian ended up with 9. Bob ended up with 8. Thanks for joining us. And if you have any other questions, you can send them in at bci@ksu.edu.
That was the Beef Cattle Institute's Ask the Experts, Brad White, Brian Lubbers, and Bob Larson. That's all we have for you today on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you tomorrow.